Final Fantasy 16 producer Naoki Yoshida, Horky, you're probably rolling your eyes at my pronunciation of that, said he believes 5G will move audiences away from traditional game consoles. He was speaking to the Financial Times. As transcribed. Is as transcribed when you do Japanese English, or is that just a typo? By VGC. Yoshida says that 5G would herald the long-term demise of traditional game consoles. This is according to Yoshida, primarily because of the improved streaming speeds associated with the new network system, which will bring about a time where developers can transfer images to any device. He goes on to say that players can enjoy a high-quality gaming experience on any device by not being tied to a gaming hardware or a TV monitor. Thanks to 5G, he thinks it's definitely heading in that direction, and he doesn't think COVID-19 has slowed it. With home consoles, Yoshida says, you need to sit in front of the television and turn on the power and wait for the hardware to start up. So it's time-consuming entertainment. With stay-at-home, there are more opportunities to turn the switch on. Horky, what do you think?
Well, first off, I'd like to say, I think it's kind of like when I first hear somebody say like 5G and the demise of something, I usually don't associate it with something that's sort of like more positive. So,
Okay.
I'm glad it's less the conspiracy theory kind of side of things. But
Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's an interesting, yeah. Yeah, so it's an interesting take, and I don't think it's quite, it's not super modern in the sense that streaming services was like when they first came out, it was sort of marketed like this is going to kill gaming. You don't need a console ever again. Project Stadia, GeForce Now, it's going to be something you won't need anything else ever again. So it's not exactly quite a hot take, I'd say, but it is interesting to see it coming from someone who's actually in the industry.
Yeah.
Like actually, in the aspect of building these things.
And not just somebody in the industry, but somebody who is in charge of humongous games that are very console and PC based. So we're talking about stuff that requires a lot of power. Now, when mobile gaming started taking off, you constantly heard all the time that consoles were going to die because everybody had a phone. And the logic made a lot of sense. More people have phones and mobile devices than have consoles. Consoles can be pretty expensive. It requires you to have a big TV where, if you think of like the social hangout situation, a lot of times it's, maybe my girlfriend's watching the TV, I'm on my phone, the family's watching the TV, the kid has to play on their tablet or something. But it does seem like there is always a crowd, a really dedicated crowd to consoles. Look at the way PS5 has sold. It's sold better than the generation before it. Now, whether that's slightly artificial because of the perceived supply and demand, we don't know, but the facts are there. It's selling like crazy. I never really paid too much attention to sort of streaming of games and software, but recently in the last couple months I've been playing around with GeForce Now, and I've been looking at Stadia, and I'm pretty blown away that I can play a lot of games without needing a new computer. Because now, if you wanted to build a gaming rig, I mean, you probably know the numbers better than me, but I'm assuming you got to pay like between $1,000, $2,000. You got to get a graphics card, which is tough to find, and then you got to worry about upgrading it and fixing it. But there is something that's kind of no-brainer about being able to just stream games. Now, the question is like, will that replace console gaming or just work in tandem so that you're at home, you're playing, you got to get up and take the subway, you can just 5G that experience to your phone?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's like, it kind of goes with a lot of like what ifs, right? Because like a lot of what I think about with streaming is like, you've got, okay, well, what if latency gets bad? Or what if my internet service goes out? I mean, I'm not going to say power because then your game system isn't going to work unless you have a Switch. But there's a lot of situations like that where I think, is it, yeah, in a perfect world, maybe it could. Maybe it would replace your home console. But I also kind of see this coming from, he's talking about 5G specifically. And in bigger cities, I think maybe it could work because you actually have a lot of 5G coverage. But, you're not going to have that, like if you live out in the middle of like Nebraska or Wyoming or something, or, just anywhere out in the sticks. Like you're not going to have 5G necessarily. Maybe you have a router with 5G, but at that point it's like, if you're wired in and you're already having problems in a lot of other places, then 5G isn't going to necessarily be that much better.
And that's always been the divide in the gaming industry since probably Xbox One really made a push for always online. You start hearing from these people that that's great if you live in San Francisco, where a lot of game developing studios are, and you have access to tons of internet on the business side of things. This business professional prosumer grade internet. That's great, but there's a lot of people, like you say, that might have data caps, and if you need to be downloading a game to play or streaming that game to play, or even like you buy a game and the game wants you to download a 20 gigabyte update, there's people that's just not possible. So I think that divide, while it's going to shrink, and people are eventually going to get caught up, there's still a lot of ground to cover in certain parts of North America. I'm in Canada, and the internet can be a scarce thing if you're not in one of the city centers. And we're not even talking about the rest of the world that is going to have their own sort of challenges and pretty remote areas. So I think there is one of the main positives of playing on a console is that you're not thinking about it. And that's changed as consoles have become more like a PC. And I've got a PS5. It's crashed a few times. Sometimes you're like, it struggles to download an update. Maybe it didn't quite set. You got to like remove that file. And it's a lot of weird troubleshooting that you never had to worry about with a console. And you're going to worry about more in a PC system. So I just think like for 5G to replace consoles, it needs to be completely flawless. It needs to always work. And if you're going to be playing like one of the most popular games, say like Call of Duty Warzone, it needs to work perfectly well with zero latency for a shooter. And you also need to have a controller. So that means you're going to be carrying a controller with your phone. Maybe they're saying if it's going to replace the console, you can just have it at home. But I think some of his arguments that you need to wait for the console to turn on that's like an infomercial where somebody's like, are you trying to pour your milk and it keeps spilling everywhere? Enough waiting. I mean, to me, consoles have the strength, especially now with SSD. It's like I've never felt more speed from the time that I want to play to when I'm playing. It like reminds me of when I used to play the N64. You just turn it on, bam, you're in there.
Yeah, they're usually in standby mode anyway. You're not going from like a cold boot. Like it's just, that seems kind of silly. I don't know. It seems like he's just either being very optimistic. Maybe he read something recently about 5G and he was just very like profoundly, influenced by it that morning or whatever while he was drinking his coffee. But yeah,
sure,
it's a very optimistic take, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I have been really excited by the idea of cloud gaming because I'm happy to have a PS5. I'll probably buy the next console that comes out as well, but I'm probably not as likely to buy a new PC if I can just the odd time that I want to play a PC game, if I could just play it off of GeForce Now, I'd be way more likely to do that because it's just if I'm trying to balance, like I got a Switch, I got a PS5, I'll probably buy an Xbox Series X when they do their sort of price cut reduction. I'm not going to want to go out and buy another gaming computer when I already have like a PC I use for streaming and production. So, if you can tell me that I can play all the PC games that I don't have access to on my consoles using 5G, or if I can use 5G to pick up and play and move these game experiences along, that, I hate to say it, I'm here for. But yeah, it does feel like just kind of more of a headline, like a catchy headline.
Yeah.
That I don't know if that was the intent to have something marketable, but I mean, I'm all for just pushing the technology. I mean, anything that can let you just play your games ubiquitously is nice.
I did actually, one of the things I was thinking about when you said streaming too is like, I was thinking about this, or I've thought about this for a little while, where it's like, it would make sense if you could, like, because if essentially what all the streaming services is doing is like sending images, right, to just shooting images at your computer, from another computer, right? That would make the streaming process far simpler, right? Because all they have to do is simply say, oh, now we won't target just your computer so you can play. We'll send it automatically to Twitch and these other streaming services as well, if you're streaming to multiple places. But it would, and it might be at a more central location, so your audience doesn't necessarily have to worry about the delay as much. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
you have to send your camera signal and everything, right? But still, I thought about it. It just seems like it's an interesting possibility that you have with that.
Yeah, and especially with I mean the popularity of say like vloggers to stay in touch with whoever you're following, to use 5G to be able to like have a perfect live experience and kind of hook that up with, if you on your phone could use the face front camera, capture your face while you're playing a game, whether that's streamed from some kind of cloud gaming processing or whether it's streamed from your system at home, and that can be like
Mhm.
no latency. Again, you need to have a phone plan that's going to have no cap. So, I mean, like I guess in Japan, maybe it's because they have such crazy population density. There's probably no
Yeah.
caps on that kind of stuff. It's really easy to service everybody, and it
Mhm.
comes down more to speed. Everybody has access. But I mean, if I realize I've been watching a couple YouTube videos and my Wi-Fi's been turned off, I have a little bit of a freak out. I was like, oh no, have I just chewed up everything? One time I was listening to something on Spotify, and the banner that they play behind it chewed up all my data, and I had to wait.
Yeah.
So, and it's getting a little bit better here now. I mean, I had like 6 gigs a month I was rocking like just 2 gigabytes a month, which was a real pain. And then it was so great to get to 6, and then now it's up to 10. So we're stretching out, and I'm in kind of a rural-ish area. So, but yeah, this is maybe in Japan, and that could be another Japanese thing of like they have much smaller living spaces, probably less chance to like get access to the TV if you're living with your family. So being able to stream the newest Monster Hunter to your phone is probably definitely more ideal in Japan.
Yeah, I think it could be a case of like maybe it's optimism in his part, or maybe it's like kind of a little bit of a tunnel vision, just not really looking at the rest of the world.
Boom. All right, let's talk about this game show coming up, Summer Games Fest. Now Sony has said they're not going to go to E3 this year, and Jeff Keighley has been gaining steam with his video game shows. He's putting on Summer Games Fest. I like him as a host. I find a lot of when I think of E3 and those kind of shows, there's so many really cringy presenters where you take people who are introverts who have spent their whole life mastering code and computers, and all of a sudden they're put on a huge stage and they need to be funny and get information across. They only have to do it once or twice a year. It's kind of part of the charm. But
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
happy
know
to
if
have.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, it's like, all right, just get to it. That's why I've always been a big fanboy for Sony's E3 conferences, because that what's his name, Sean Layden, comes out. Hello, here's like 10 trailers in a row, and then we'll come back, have a little chat. So Jeff Keighley's a great host. I mean, we see the way that he handled. Who's the guy that makes the co-op games? Who came out and said like, "Fuck Hollywood, video games are where it's at. Yeah, play a way out. I love it." He's Jeff Keighley's just such a smooth pro. So I enjoy shows, and he seems to be becoming the place to be. He's consistent. I think he was smart to sort of kind of like get on the good graces of developers and give them this prestigious video game award show. So I think they're probably more likely to give him some of these world premieres. I'm thinking in terms of like predictions, you'll probably get world premieres of stuff that not maybe like an Ubisoft or PlayStation or Microsoft, people who already have their own platform, but games that are just trying to get out there. So maybe like indie titles, lots of indie titles, I think, and sort of the mid-tier ones, the ones that need to find an audience. I think we'll be seeing mostly stuff like that. What do you think?
I don't know. I think we might see some big things come out of this one. Like, I think Summer Games Fest is going to be kind of evenly distributed because you already have, I think, which one is it? Summer Games Fest or E3? They have like they have a dedicated day for PC. E3, I think, does, and yeah. So I think there's a good chance we'll see some big stuff come here because I think what Valve or Steam, whatever, however you want to see it, is going to be at Summer Games Fest, but they aren't like part of E3,
Right.
and
And Sony as well.
they have some interesting stuff coming out that it may show up, it may not. Um, and yeah, you've got Gearbox. Like, there's a lot of publishers that are going to be over at Summer Games Fest. You've got, let's say, we've got or I was going to say we could put up the list, but we've got like 2K, Activision, Blizzard, Capcom, Devolver, EA, Epic Games, Gearbox, Hi-Rez, got Bandai Namco, Sega. I mean, there's just a ton of them out there. So I think it's fair game for anything.
Yeah, and we have seen gigantic announcements from Kojima at Jeff Keighley's shows. So, and Sony not being at E3, and like you had said, Valve. I feel like, I mean, they can do their own show, and Valve has Steam to do
They
huge
have their own
announcements.
platform, yeah. Just put a banner up.
But I mean, they are probably still thinking like, well, this is another way we can reach some people. So
And there's console people who won't get who aren't going to necessarily see Steam. I
absolutely.
mean, if you aren't going to see it, not everybody's going to see Steam. So it's good for them.
Yeah, it's now as far as what I'd want to see, I want some information on the Switch Pro, the Switch 2. I was putting up, you saw some pictures I was putting up on the Discord. I took my girlfriend, she's new to driving, so every once in a while when she needs to go on the highway to go shopping for work, I'll take her and I bring my Switch because it's going to be her in the store for 20 minutes at a time. Got my Switch. Great. And I'm trying to play max brightness. There's so much glare on that screen. I have to like reflect it off my black t-shirt. If otherwise, like I posted a picture, you could just clearly see my face and the phone and a little bit of Link's head in the middle. And you said it looks like it's a 90s kid, the game. And that's really annoying. And I'm just,
To be clear,
mhm.
you have the first one, right? Because remember
Yeah.
there was a redesign that already happened. I have the second one. I have the redesign
Okay.
that already happened, and they actually did bump up the maximum brightness on units in that iteration.
Oh,
So
okay.
we already have a slightly more brightness on that, but yeah. I mean, I think even with mine, I still get some glare in the sun sometimes. It's not the greatest.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of it, right? Is that you can just pick this up and take it out. And I still had a lot of fun with it. I mean, in like the 10 minutes that I sat down and was playing this, my save game was from last year, May 2020. And I was outside of that labyrinthine puzzle. And I've beaten the game before, but I decided to try to beat it again so that I could get the DLC or something activated. You have to beat it on a certain level.
Right.
And it's like, I know I could walk through this puzzle, but because it's my second time, I went and completed the first main quest that gives you that leaping thing, Rivali's Gale, I think. You charge it up, you can jump, you get up really high. And I've put every single, because when you get orbs in that game, every time you complete a mini dungeon, you get 4 of them, you can either increase your health or your endurance. So it's a really fun way to play the game the second time, to like max out your endurance and have very little health. So you can still die easily. You're kind of like a glass cannon. And there's so many different ways you can approach puzzles in that game. It's just so rewarding. I was like walking around on the top of the maze, looking for little bits, finding kind of secrets, just the mystery of it. There's no what would you call it, like signal noise in that game. What you see
Mm.
is usually very important to it. And I just had a great time solving that puzzle, dipping down, getting some new weapons, fought a few times, and I love how you can open up the map. It tells you exactly where you are, where you need to go. You can warp anywhere really, really easily. All the muscle memory came back because it's just so intuitively laid out. And you can also press a button and it shows you everywhere you've walked. So you can go, oh, I haven't just explored that part. I've been playing this game since it's come out, and I'm still discovering new things. So I would love a Switch 2.
What did you hear about it so far? Like, because
About the
there's
Switch
been
2?
some rumors that have come out. Yeah,
Well, from what I heard is that they're targeting 4K, and I believe they're using some of that, I guess like NVIDIA Black
secret
Magic.
sauce. Yeah.
Yeah. So which I am all about. I think that you need to be careful with ray tracing 4K because it's a real diminished returns. The amount of processing it takes to have accurate reflections when you could just artistically kind of draw them. Like when I was looking at Breath of the Wild, I was looking at the different textures and stuff, and I go like, when you get up close to the stuff, it can be kind of low res, but
Mhm.
the impact is still there, and it's still a
Mhm.
beautiful like painterly world that can not only exudes the ambiance of it, tells a story through the environment, is a nice place to be and to look at, and runs really well. So I think what they're hoping for is they want to reach 4K using that SSL stuff, and I would assume they're going to have an upgraded screen and some processing.
Yeah, I think that about covers it. They're gonna. I think you're basically gonna see no bezels on the screen in
Oh,
this new
really?
version. I had originally thought they were going to be doing something crazier, like with regard to like it's the Switch Pro, but it's docked only kind of thing, or like it's more like a traditional console.
Mm.
But it seems like they're basically going to stick with the normal Switch design, but they're just kind of swapping out um some of the internals and better screen. I think they're going to improve the kickstand. Like instead of having
Yeah.
that little 1 foot that sticks out,
Yeah.
they're going to have like more like the whole back comes out as like a little kickstand to get on there. So
Holy shit.
and that'll be a lot better because like the kickstand is basically meaningless on the current model.
I cannot believe mine hasn't broken already, but I rarely ever use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a report here on Games Radar reporting that a Spanish news outlet claimed the revised console model have a far bigger screen, which would be pretty nice. I mean, I feel like the Switch is a nice balance of something that I would carry with me. You can't fit it in your pocket or anything, but it's nice and lightweight. The joysticks are high enough, it's not like a little nub on a 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
The buttons feel pretty good. I'm not going to be playing an insane fighting game on it, and the joystick isn't like super great for shooters. But I was pretty happy with the screen size. If it could be a little bigger and get rid of the bezel,
Yep.
sure. An Ethernet port would be nice. If you could just put that even on just the dock would be good. Like instead of having to have this USB Ethernet port. But I mean, I'm always really surprised when I'm playing Splatoon or Fortnite or Mario Kart online. These are fast-paced online games that I play with Wi-Fi, Rocket League, and works like a charm. So
They can't do anything too crazy because it's sort of like your PS4 Pro kind of situation where they aren't going to break backward compatibility with old titles, and older systems also likely should. I don't think they're going to do Switch Pro games. I can't see Nintendo doing that, fragmenting their market.
Definitely not.
Like that.
This is just anecdotal, but I was at the video game store, EB Games, and a guy came in and he was buying a game. And he made sure to tell them, he's like, oh, by the way, it's for the Switch. What's the Switch that's portable only? That one.
The 2DS one? Or like the 2D one?
No, not the 3DS. This is like the Switch that is only portable.
Or
like the Switch
I meant
Lite.
like the Lite version.
Yeah, and you can't take the Joy-Cons off. And he made sure to tell the EB Games guy that because now you're already in kind of messing with the more casual consumer's idea of like, okay, what's a Switch? What was a 3DS? What does my kid want? So I think you're totally right. They're not going to introduce a Switch Pro that is now you're playing with real power. Where you're gonna, yeah, they're not going to do that at all. I mean, you saw them do that a little bit with the new Nintendo 3DS, which got really complicated. New Nintendo 3DS XL, 3DS XL, the 2DS, which is a 3DS without the 3D. But that was way at the end of it when they just wanted to put a few more games up. But I like that they're just going. It was pretty genius. The Wii was weak. The Wii U was weak and kind of portable. The 3DS was portable and weak. And now they've just massaged them all into the middle and found out that, yeah, we can still play Doom. We can still play a lot of big games on here. The Witcher 3, if you're a psychopath. And now we're somehow going to get 4K. And just have everything on the one platform. I think is fantastic. Yeah, OLED display and a 4K TV output.
Yeah, it'll be a much nicer display, I think.
So I think I'll be selling mine as soon as I see that report, get a couple $100 for it, and get ready for the new one coming, which I guess is going to come out this fall, I think.
Also, on the software side of things, I think I'm assuming we're going to see Splatoon 3 gameplay. Probably going to see a date for launch for that. And I assume we'll see something Breath of the Wild 2 related.
We haven't seen anything.
You think that'll come out this year or next year?
Breath of the Wild? It is June. Maybe Christmas.
In line with the new Switch, you think?
Could be. That'd be nice. Breath of the Wild on the first Switch, Breath of the Wild 2 on the next one.
I think they've got to be close, It's been a while.
It's been a while, but...
Even with we're talking about a lot of pre-pandemic work has already probably gone into this thing.
Yeah, and they're able to probably take a lot of the engine, I would imagine, from Breath of the Wild 1.
Yeah, it's not going to be that different. Well, I guess there's going to be differences, but the core is still there. They've still got a lot of those tools already there.
That's what I'm so interested in, is the changes they thought they should make. The developers themselves, when they worked on the game forever, you put it out, it's been out for a long time. People played it to death. You're still seeing people come up with cool tricks and what you can do with the physics. What are the things that developers think, oh, we really need to change? What are they going to do to weapon durability? And that's actually the one I'm most interested in. I really don't mind the weapons breaking. I like the idea of your weapon breaking. So it's about to break. They let you know, and then they let you throw it. So it breaks, but you get like it gets a critical hit basically. And then you're it reminds me of being Joel, and you're in this scrap to the death, and you're knocking off a skeleton enemy's arm and picking up his arm and beating him to death with it. I love it. But they should have a couple weapons that don't break. The Master Sword shouldn't break.
What do you think about Mario Kart? You think we're going to see Mario Kart 9?
I would like to see a Mario Kart 9 because Mario Kart Deluxe added a battle mode in the DLC, but Mario Kart 8 came out on the Wii U a long time ago. The last Donkey Kong
2014.
game. Yeah, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze came out a long time ago. We could see another one. I know they said the Mario Odyssey team is working on a 3D Donkey Kong game. That I would be really interested in seeing. They announced Metroid Prime 4, the logo. So they'll probably come up with a game based on that logo.
Oh, boy.
Anything with that... Yeah. They'll probably have to. I feel like with Metroid, they like to have a bit of a gimmick, whether it's motion controls or if they would have landed on the Wii U, they definitely would have been using that screen like crazy for Metroid. But Metroid gets people excited.
We need like when we do like a watch along thing for E3 and Summer Games Fest, perhaps we need like you know how you do like bingo for those, right?
Yeah.
Well, we need something for like worthless teasers. You know, right. Where they just show like the most basic thing, like basically a PNG or something they put up on the screen. It's like, hey, remember that?
Yeah.
Coming someday.
To be announced.
2028.
Well, there's, Starfield. What is it? It's Bethesda. Elder Scrolls in space. That's all you need to know. Microsoft now owns it. I'd love to see something about that. You know, okay, what I would add on that bingo card is when you see a reveal and it's like just a fucking complete cutscene. Go, what the hell was that? It's a video game, and I'm saying only, like the first Halo Infinite reveal was a cutscene that has nothing to do with how you play. It'd be like if a movie trailer came out and the movie trailer was a book. You go, well, just imagine what the movie is going to be like. So,
oh boy.
I mean, speaking of that, Bethesda and Microsoft, it seems like they've been really hesitant to completely declare it's only going to be on, say, Xbox and PC. They do use this phrasing of it's going to be on platforms you can play Games Pass. Now, they don't just say Xbox and PC with Games Pass. They say platforms. So are they going to put that on other things? Are you going to play that on your phone? Or what some people have thought, could they ever bring Games Pass to Sony? I don't think it ever happens. Do you?
I've heard that they're going to bring it to Steam.
Games Pass on Steam.
You're going to be able to like access your Games Pass games through Steam, and with that comes some measure of convenience because you've got Proton, so you can play games on portable or like on Linux-based systems, which could include their magical handheld.
Right. SteamPal.
So I've heard some stuff about that along the lines of it's like there's going to be some kind of trade that's happening. This is from Valve News Network or Tyler McVicker, but he was whispering this stuff about how they're going to get something out of this. So it's like Steam isn't just getting Games Pass is like a thing. Steam is also going to be providing something to Microsoft somehow. So I'm not really sure what that's going to be. Could be something interesting. I'm hoping for some kind of like, Xbox can play Steam games now,
Wow. I could see Microsoft doing that because because Microsoft doesn't get any money from Steam games, right? Or do they
still charge you for online services? So if they still have you on the IV for that, the IV drip of online services, then they're still bleeding you a little bit,
Because it's launching. Because a computer game is not launching on the platform of Windows; it's launching on the platform of Steam. No, it's not because
Microsoft's already losing money on that. If they're if I buy a game through Steam, Microsoft doesn't get anything from that. You can get it through their Windows or through the Microsoft Store, but everyone also makes fun of that. And I
Their
guess
store is so
technically,
terrible. The amount of
Games
times.
Pass is technically like tied to the Microsoft Store, I guess. Kind of. It's probably using the same like infrastructure underneath.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it delivers stuff. But everyone just thinks that the actual store when you actually want to buy something that's a joke. You know.
Yeah, it's run terribly. The amount of times you have to click on a link to do something on the Windows game store is just awful. And it's amazing. It's like these guys have not been working with software for their entire history, and they can't get software right. It's amazing. That runs on their
Yeah.
operating system. It's pathetic. SteamPal, I'd love to see. I'd love to see what they take from the Switch, what they fix, how powerful they're going to make it. Because
I don't know if we're gonna see it like at this conference or not. I've heard that we won't see SteamPal, that we won't see a new HMD, a new headset, and that we probably aren't going to see any games either from Valve. But I
what
don't
will we
know.
see?
I think maybe some kind of partnerships. That would be my guess. If they truly aren't going to show off anything, then it's going to be like partnerships and stuff.
Okay.
I'd hope we'd see the portable system though. I think you kind of have to at either E3 or the Summer Games thing.
Or even, I would just want some information on, we don't have a prototype we can show you, but what is your plan? Do you want this thing to be able to natively run a lot of Steam games? How is it going to be upgraded? Is it going to be using cloud processing, or is it going to be running off of your, is it going to be using your computer? Because people can already do that. Like you can Steam Link running your PC at home, running like in a tab on your computer. Because I know some people do that. They go, I'm at work and I'm playing a game from my Steam library, but my computer's at home doing all the heavy lifting.
I've heard this will support that. And it's essentially like as if you had a Switch that could operate as a Steam Link device. So you could just stream from your home PC to your little handheld, which would be admittedly extremely awesome if it's got good controls, assuming it's got, a decent set of joysticks and buttons.
But you also need to, there's people that are Steam gamers that are only mouse and keyboard, right? They don't want to hold a controller. That's disgusting to them. So
maybe USB ports?
Yeah, or I'm not really a mouse and keyboard gamer, so would a little trackpad work? Something
they
like
do
that,
have
maybe?
the Steam, or the old
Steam controller.
Yeah, those things had those weird little trackpad things.
Yeah.
So, and if they just essentially just integrate those in there, like they already have the driver work partly done, as far as development goes.
And touchscreen
be
as
very
well.
logical. Yeah.
But
I guess they could what if they have modular parts? Like swap out your D-pad for,
that's why I'm interested with the SteamPal, because like how PC gamers think and how Nintendo gamers think is so different. Well, and like,
but it's gonna fall apart. Like anytime they do modular stuff, it's like it always has like a little bit of play where it's like starts slipping around, and it feels like you got this kind of like, I don't know. I think it's gonna be janky if they do that.
Well, even the my Joy-Cons they don't lock in.
That's true.
If you could just push it out without pressing the button. So that's screwed. And that happens sometimes I'm playing and it'll just kind of be like, oh, Joy-Con disconnected. So that's a bit irritating. Another reason why I'm looking for it to get another Switch. Consoles and controllers have just really not held up. Like the PS4, my PS4 controller ended up with drift. My Switch Joy-Con has drift.
They always the same parts for some reason. Like I don't know. There's got to be a better design out there or a better manufacturer, but maybe it's not at the right price point yet.
Yeah. Well, controllers are costing so much more as they put more things into them, and then they're breaking down. All right. I'm sure Sony pretty soon is going to be talking about a God of War 2. Probably some new colored PlayStation
I saw some
stuff.
delay, actually. There was something on Reddit talking about a delay.
Yeah, I think 2022.
Yeah.
Well, you need to impress with God of War. Delayed until 2022, but will come to PS4 as well.
Some people are suspecting that they might delay Horizon, even though they've already done that other little demo thing recently. I guess that's more just a paranoia than anything else.
Well, Horizon came out the same year as Breath of the Wild. I think the same month, early 2017. So it'll be a
Horizon Forbidden West may follow.
Yeah, and they're both on PS4. You know, when I first heard that, having spent all this money on a PS5, obviously I'm way more excited when games are only PS5 because you'd think that they're going to take a lot more advantage of it. Something like Ratchet and Clank is going to have things that you could never do on a PS4. But then talking to you about dev units,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and like how much and how there is, and so some developers have said there already is a soft cap on, like, yeah, you could try to make your game look like an Unreal Engine tech demo, but really we're just going to kind of pick a point of how impressive we can be, and we're going to make the game because you have to. If you just spend, you could spend 10 years trying to get the ray tracing perfect on it and try to make this like every NPC incredibly detailed, but you have to cut corners and you have to know where you're going to focus. So for God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn already being really successful, polished games on the PS4 and the PS4 Pro, it does make sense for them to just like take what works,
Mhm.
expand on it. Don't break down the whole thing and try to create, you know, something brand new for the PS5. So I get it.
Yeah.
You have to be smart with the stuff. This is millions of dollars at stake and just like opportunity costs. So you have
I
to
don't
play
know
it
how
safe.
hard it is for them to like polish it up, sort of buff it up to shine on a new system. You know, in terms of like if they like, I imagine there's probably a lot of going back into the original designs they did for the game and for the first games, and they're like, all right, what did we cut? Like, what did we have to cut because of either time constraints or processing constraints or whatever?
Right.
And they go back and they're like, okay, there's this little thing that seemed kind of interesting. Let's explore it. Maybe bring it in for this. Like maybe some kind of particular enemy that had a complex AI or something. They can maybe bring it forward, try to do it on the new system. Maybe they can get it to work. They have more time to do something. I don't know. I
But
mean,
then
I
but
feel
then
like
it's
there's
a
got to be some scavenging. You know?
yeah. And I'm sure, like you said, they have a whole list of things they had to cut. But but then if you're bringing in an enemy that they couldn't do, and then now you're is that not going to be in the PS4 vanilla version of it or the PS4 Pro version?
No, I'm just thinking like I'm thinking they just look at something that was left on the cutting room floor for the original game,
Mhm.
and then they bring it to the new game, but they actually like redo it, like they they
Okay.
try to rework the design so that it can work in this new model or whatever.
Yeah, they get another
Uh,
crack at it. I
yeah,
mean, you like with PCs and stuff, it's just like level of detail. So how many blades of grass do you want to see and particle effects and that kind of stuff. But it does feel like you're still kind of bottlenecked because if it was just on a next gen console, you could just you could have a thing where like it's the flood in Halo. Tons and tons of enemies are going to come through.
mhm.
And if you want to put that on the PS4, you can't necessarily just downgrade the resolution of everything. They just become like totally blank blobs that don't have a texture loaded in. You still have to sort of play by the fundamental rules of the lowest common denominator.
Yeah, and like because also thinking about the cutting. Well, I think the tooling is also going to really help. I think Unreal Engine 5, like what we saw with the amount of dynamic tooling they can do for animations.
Yeah.
Basically, anytime they can make one person do about like 10 people's worth of work, or if they can make it so people don't step on any of the other developers' toes while they're working, then that makes it so they can really push more out to the game. And I think it's obviously it's a little too late for that, unless anybody is already trying to put stuff on, UE5. I don't know that they are. Um, but these games they were done on earlier engines and stuff, so they don't necessarily have those nice tools to be able to do
Right.
these cool features, these time savers. So yeah, they're probably going to be a little closer to like the old gen, but with maybe some new gen stuff just tossed in, like a little salt and pepper kind of on top.
I mean, what I found really exciting about seeing the demos for the newer Unreal Engine is they showed the AI creating more dynamic animations. So like a walking
Yeah.
animation, you can kind of just whether it's the animation or whether it's the environment, you can just say, look, we're going to animate this little bit, this portion, and say make a whole area look like that, but with a variety. We're going to animate this bit of walking, but integrate some other things. I don't know the technical limitations. Maybe you can't just do that on say like on the newest top system and then also have that work again like on the PS4. Is it going to be limited by the hardware or is it going to be limited by the software of that.
I think it's a lot of it's going to be very much how much detail do you throw in. In some cases it will work, some cases it won't. You're just going to have to essentially test it until it hits the limit, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else we might see here?
I think Gearbox is going to have something big. Could be new Borderlands game. I think they're probably well positioned to do that, given that they have the engine for what they made with Borderlands 3.
I feel like Borderlands 3 just came out.
Yeah, it was in 2019. But I think that they've already got out 2 seasons of DLC. And well, second season was a little bit weaker because it was made during the pandemic. And so like, and not the like crap on it, but people weren't as happy with it and all. And in terms of like after like the post-launch support, basically most of it was in that first season. Second season's kind of dribbled down. I think they've got everybody else either working on a new IP or a new Borderlands game. And I think Randy Pitchford said some stuff about working on the biggest or the big next game or whatever, and kind of insinuating that it's Borderlands related. So I think we're probably going to see something like that. And if we see anything, I think we're going to see a lot of games get those like teasers without gameplay. It's a cutscene and then a very vague, date of either like it'd be like just a year, not even a month, not even a quarter, or not even, and especially not a day. Yeah, it's just going to be like, we're working on this. Get ready, as if you didn't already assume they were going to be doing that anyway.
Yeah. Which
it's nice to see a confirmation, but
what are the total opposite of that? What are really fun is when they show you some indie game and they go, and it's available right now. Play the demo.
Yeah,
those are super fun.
There was that one from last year where it was like your, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which we're probably going to see an update for that coming out. I don't remember the name of that one, but I think we're going to see an update for that. And but that was one that really makes me think of, because I remember that it was announced. I don't even know if I heard anything about it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, and it'll be available tomorrow,
right? In
early access, of course. It won't be complete, Any games that are announced that way, they're always going to be early access titles.
That's true actually. In a lot of the indie ones, or they're like very small where they can complete them. Well, we could see. I mean, Deathloop is pretty close to coming out, so they might do like a nice big, probably see some hype gameplay videos. Yeah. Ghostwire Tokyo, which I've been hearing out a lot about. Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop are still going to be timed exclusives on PS5, PC. So Microsoft bought Bethesda, but I guess those agreements were already in place. New Forza Horizon taking place in Mexico could happen. We'll probably see some stuff from Project Athia, which I think is made by the Final Fantasy 15 team. So that could be probably is going to look nice and have some interesting action. Hopefully they can have a deeper combat system than 15 that really wore thin. And like you're mentioning,
gotta have some Elden Ring, we hope.
Elden Ring. You've got to have some Elden Ring. The fans of those games, they need that drip feed of information. They gave like a pretty in-depth, well, for them, for From Software, the gameplay they showed in that last big trailer.
If we get anything else, what do you think? You think it's going to be, if you think we're going to get any kind of date?
Ooh. How long
are we going to get it? Are we going to get a 2022? You think they're going to say? You think they're going to say 2023? I think that would be pretty. People would hate it. I think people are expecting it to be out next year.
I think for sure it'll be 2022 at this point. Their games are monumental, but they generally don't have a really long development cycle. I mean, they develop Bloodborne and Dark Souls 2 at the same time.
I think summer 2022 is likely.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't think they're going to do spring. They'll probably go for summer.
This last report I'm looking at from May 12th, 2021 says they strongly suggest Elden Ring won't ship until April 2022. So I could see, sure, spring.
Okay, late spring maybe. Yeah, it'll probably slip anyway. They've got plenty of time to delay it.
And they're not a franchise IP developer that needs like Christmas sales. They've got a hardcore audience that, I mean, you could put it in the deadest time of year and it would just take over everything. So excited for that. Elden Ring. Yeah, we should be seeing some stuff. So that's it. I guess, yeah, if we can make it work, I'd love to do a watch along with you and the chat for Summer Games Fest.
I think we need a watch along. We need a game to play along like alongside the content. Like we need something where it's like, no release date, take a drink kind of thing.
I think we could have a bunch of things listed, and every time they happen, I'll add a little tick, and we'll see what we get the most of. And there might be some surprising things that we didn't think you get a lot of at these shows. How many times Jeff Keighley...
I need to reacquaint myself with Jeff Keighley's tics or like weirdness. Anything he does that's strange, There's got to be some weird.
What I think of him, I think putting two hands on the microphone. I could be imagining that, but I think that's a thing he does. He likes to grab on. This is where my hands are. Like he's holding on to gain
control.
Like he's stopping a snake from biting him. He's a smooth motherfucker. I like his presentation style. He just he doesn't try to be funny, which is
feels like he doesn't care. He just just put the games out there, finish, give me my money. Where's my check?
Here's a bingo board. Unrelated musical performance is trying to capitalize on something trending.
Well, we know Weezer's going to be on there.
Are they? Oh,
Weezer's on the Summer Games Fest.
That's cool. Weezer's always been really nerdy. I feel like they kind of got away from that, but but like Weezer seems like a strange fit. I mean, kids who want to get information on Fortnite are going to be like, "Why is my grandpa's favorite band playing right now?"
Yeah, I was thinking it was a little bit weird, but
for Weezer fans, there's a killer SNL skit where Leslie Jones and Matt Damon are at a dinner party and with a bunch of friends, and they have this epic face-off of like Matt Damon, hardcore Weezer fans saying they're still good and underrated, and Leslie Jones being like, they haven't made a good album since Pinkerton. And it's so nerdy and minute to the detail of that only like real Weezer fans are getting it. It's awesome. But seeing Matt Damon and Leslie Jones do it, it's so great.
We still have E3 that's still a remaining venue. I don't know if they're having some weird performance there. Sony's not there, so we can't have like that weird artsy stuff going on.
I love their stuff. Hanging bodies from the ceiling and orchestras playing live, composed by Bear McCreary, composer of
What's the most ridiculous artist you think could show up at something like E3, like Nickelback or like Smash Mouth or something?
No. It would be, if in their dreams, it would be BTS.
Oh,
but it would probably be I like what Sony does when they do.
Blizzard. I could see Blizzard pitching that for the Korean crowd.
Oh my god!
For like an Overwatch 2. Have BTS show up,
and they're dressed up like the characters.
Yeah.
The amount of
I didn't even think of that. That's awesome.
Written and
that's great.
Adult rated fanfic. Oh my god! BTS came on. They were doing a commercial on a show my girlfriend was watching. I said, "Do you know who those guys are?" She goes, "Who?" I said, "Well, first off, they look really creepy because they have like very white makeup and they look like sex dolls." And I said, "That's the biggest band in the world right now." She's like, "I've never even heard of them." I go, "Yeah, because you don't go on the internet the way I do. You don't go on Reddit." But also, she doesn't really pay attention to that stuff. Because if I saw them and I didn't know who they were, I would get the idea that these guys are a big deal by the way they're being presented.
Stella, these guys have a McDonald's meal.
McDonald's. How's that jingle go?
McDonald's. McDonald's.
Okay.
I feel like they must have changed that by now. I don't know. It feels like the I'm loving it era,
Right. I hate how that stuff gets programmed into your brain. All right. Time to go. Thanks, Forky.
Yep.
If you're watching on YouTube, this is also available as a podcast. If you're on the podcast, the reverse is true. Thanks for watching. We're doing weekly-ish podcasts with Horky, movie reviews with Matthew Owen, top 20 video game music on Wednesdays, gaming Thursday to Sunday. It's all too much. Bye.